buddies and buddy girls. Today is the makeup video for Wednesday, and I'm just going to be reading for you. We're going to continue on with our Starshine reading. If you like sci-fi books, then maybe you'll like this. We are on chapter 3. Harrison. 12 screens hovered in a grid pattern above Kennedy Rossi's desk. She regarded them with a critical eye. Her head tilted to the left, then the right. On the off chance this shift in angle might reveal a new perspective. After further consideration, she backed up to lean against the window. The distance allowed her to better analyze the overall effect. At least in theory. The desk was made of nearly transparent, polycrystalline alumina glass. It displayed any information transmitted to it. In her case, typically ship architectures and schematics, with microscale accuracy and detail. It also happened to act as a rather beautiful complement to the bright, elegant decor of the office. This project wasn't so far along as to require the desk's particular capabilities. However, not yet. The presentation contained in the hovering screens focused on the big picture. Its purpose was to weave a story. The less technically minded she was being charitable, directors might understand, and more importantly, believe in enough to invest significant funds in the project. She gazed out the window. Large feathery snowflakes danced in the air yet again. Maybe she should go skiing this weekend. Harrison was the closest habitable world to Earth, and had been one of the first extrasolar settlements. In a nasty storm, she occasionally questioned the habitable part. But colonists had put the chilly environs to good use. Due to little orbital tilt, there weren't seasons to speak of, and while it did snow often, the low humidity resulted in a dry champagne powder snow. Those features meant, in addition to creating a skier's paradise, quantum scale, and other manufacturing that required supercooled conditions could be made cheaply here without the need for orbital facilities. The colony had wasted no time in crafting the advantages into an economic boon, building a manufacturing sector which was all too happy to supply materials for the rapid galactic expansion of the late 22nd century. More than 150 years later, Harrison was among the most prosperous Alliance worlds and a hub for electronics, orbitals, and starship design and construction, which was why she was here, despite the reality that the social and cultural offerings still paled in comparison to those of home. But Earth was a mere 3 hours away, and it was easy enough to hop a transport when something interesting caught her fancy. With an almost wistful sigh, she turned away from the snowflakes and back to the presentation. A palm came up to rest beneath her chin. As onboard CUs grew increasingly powerful and attained greater range, long-distance hacking of ship systems constituted a growing crime. The chart hovering to her left indicated the rate of increase in such attacks threatened to become exponential. A heavily cyberized merc ship was able to hide in the shadow of a moon and remotely take control of a corporate, personal, or possibly even military ship halfway across a stellar system. Mercs were then free to disable it for boarding and raiding, turn its weapons on its friends, or send it crashing into the nearest planet. The problem hadn't yet hit the radar of the general public, but it would do so soon enough if she had her way. IS design would be waiting in the wings to offer the finest in EM reverse shielding to counter the threat for the right price. Obviously, she had already drawn up rough schematics for how the shielding would integrate into standard ship infrastructure, determined the estimated power and material requirements, and developed a lattice formulation to best improve its performance. Really, all she needed to do now was add some flowery words and a couple of charts projecting outrageous profit percentages, and she'd be ready to present to the board of directors. She reached over and flipped the trend statistics and market analysis screen. A flashing light in her EVI signaled an incoming holocom request. She stashed the screens and allowed the holo to take their place. Kennedy Rossi speaking. I'm seeing the back of a head and a knot of dark red. Alex, it says so right there on your screen, Ken. Oh, I never checked that. I prefer to be surprised. Alex chuckled and finally looked up. She sat cross-legged in the middle of an engineering well of the Cyane, an open panel exposing the engineering core beside her. She blew a wisp of hair out of her face. Sorry, final diagnostics check. I have a question. And I have an answer, or if I don't, I have an entertaining yet relevant anecdote. Is it safe to tune the power outflow to the dampener field down 15% or so, then run it through the MEH or MHEMT amp on the way? I don't want to blow up my ship. Give me a second, and let me check the field test data. She flicked her index finger against the edge of the desk to display the product files and scrolled down a series of tables and charts, pausing a few times to study one. Not quite, but you can. Do you keep a silica sapphire matrix filter on board? Yep. I think that I'm going to do soft-spoken from here. Okay, if you run the conduit through it after the amp, you should be fine. The dampener doesn't like power spikes. She picked up a diagram out of the files. Here, I'll send you the scheme flow. I'm sure the CEO won't mind if I toss around a bit of proprietary information. Terrific, thanks. Alex relaxed, back on her hands, while the file transmitted and loaded. How's life on Arison? Have the dinner parties lowered your IQ precipitously yet?
Or would it be the boardrooms? I can never tell which was worse. She rolled her eyes with dramatic flair and flopped down on her chair. Dreadfully boring. Yesterday, I had to politely educate 3 visiting investors on how we would not be switching to the trendy new tungsten metamat for our starship hulls due to the fact it melts in warmer planetary atmospheres. They kept getting distracted, oogling my legs, and well, I won't put you to sleep with the tiresome details of what followed. Although I did meet a delicious eco-dev executive at a cocktail party later in the evening, so the day wasn't a complete loss. We're having dinner tomorrow night. I have high hopes. Her eyes sparkled with deliberate playfulness. Speaking of tall, dark and handsome, have you listened to Ethan's newest music? I have. It was surprisingly mellow. He's getting complacent in his wealth and fame. Angst and rage is for the young and poor, right? You know, you should totally stop by and see him for a quick lay before you hit space again. Coaxing Alex to stop working for 5 minutes and, heaven forbid, engage in fun had been an ongoing project of hers since university. Where inventing the most clever and efficient engineering designs had competed for attention with frat parties and beach bonfires. Of course, Alex had never wanted to go to the frat parties, preferring her men brooding and intellectual. The bonfires she had been only a little more amenable to, but Kennedy was nothing if not persistent, and she had an occasion relented, even if she had usually ended up fucking with the boys, rather than actually fucking any of them. Alex worried at her lower lip, while she gave a stellar impression of scrupulously studying the incoming scheme flow. Ken, it's been 11 years. I'm not going to stop by for a quick lay. You're forgetting that time you did stop by for a not-so-quick lay after Malcolm broke up with you. When was it? 2 years ago? 2.5 years ago, and I haven't forgotten. It doesn't count, because I was wasted, among other things. She twirled a long lock of her hair around her finger all weekend. Alex's eyes narrowed. It magnified the effect of the arched eyebrows above them. So Gleason passed Zakrow. Kennedy laughed, but raised her hands in mock surrender. Okay, I'll let it go, but my point still stands. I'm sure he'd be thrilled to indulge you again. He's always had a soft spot for you. She definitely saw a brief flash of amusement cross Alex's expression before she tamped it down. And you've always been entirely too nosy when it comes to my sex life. Now, about the field's power requirements. You said it doesn't like spikes. Just how much fluctuation can it tolerate, really? Cyan, Earth, Seattle. Alex took a few steps back and let her gaze run over the length of the ship. She had spent more than 3 hours the previous evening working the silica sapphire matrix into the control grid and recalibrating the power outflow, then testing and retesting the entire system. But the results were worth it. while even extensive testing couldn't replicate real space conditions. The sims averaged a 39.2% decrease in emission leakage with the new dampener field engaged. Already an extremely quiet ship, presenting a sleek, subtle profile that shrugged off seeker pings like water down a sloped roof. Her stealth level might now be unmatched. She wasn't invisible to sensors, not altogether, but she would be damn close. A self-satisfied smile grew on her lips. Part of her mind ticked through the list in her head to ensure all was as it should be. Any issues had been addressed, and she was prepped to fly. The other part giggled silently in pleasure at the beautiful creature which hung before her. The new F-graphene alloy muted the reflective characteristics of the hull, giving the cyane a dangerous, sinister appearance that suited her just fine. Her reverie was interrupted by Charlie coming around the rear of the hull to stand beside her. Everything checks out. I believe you knew it would, but thanks for letting me pretend to do a little work. She grinned and elbowed him lightly on the side. He was right, of course. She understood the intimate details of every subsystem far better than he did. But his job was making sure starships operated correctly. He had checklists for each subsystem and methodical processes to confirm their proper functioning. It was simply good practice for the ship to regularly undergo a thorough operational review, particularly after installing substantial upgrades, which she had most certainly done. A pleasure doing business with you, as always. No idea when I'll be back, but I'll let you know when I know. Yes, ma'am. Safe travels. As soon as he had left, she jogged up the extended ramp to the open airlock and headed straight for the cockpit. She had earlier confirmed the food supply delivery and stored her clothes and personals below. Nothing left to do but leave. She settled into the supple leather cockpit chair, and with a thought, the HUD came to life. The Avionic screen displayed the formal communication with the spaceport's 6 interface, EACV 7A492X, to Olympic Regional Spaceport. Control. Departure sequence initiation requested Bay L19. ORS-C to EVAC, or to EACV 7A492X. Departure sequence initiated Bay L19. The docking platform, whose clamps held the ship, slid toward the interior of the spaceport. It then became a lift and rose to the roof along with dozens of other lifts in the stacked rings of the facility. All departures occurred above the ceiling of the Skycar airlanes for obvious reasons. The platform locked into position on the rooftop deck. She idled the engine and waited for the clamps to disengage. ORSC to EACV 7A492X, departure clearance window 12 seconds bearing, north 346.48 degrees west. EACV 7A492X to ORSC, departure clearance window accepted. The platform rotated to the indicated bearing, and the clamps retracted. The cyane hovered for 1.4 seconds before the pulse. Detonation engine engaged, and she was flying over Whidbey Island. 18 seconds later, she passed into the Strait of Georgia. and beyond the purview of ORS control. Outside in spaceport's airspace and above 2 kilometers altitude air, traffic was managed by a CU under the guise of the Earth low atmosphere traffic control system. Its job in the main consisted of ensuring starships and planetary transports didn't crash into one another. It was a task uniquely suited for the raw processing power of a centralized synthetic construct, and the CU performed it flawlessly. She veered west, the coast receded, then disappeared from the stern. Visual screen and the Pacific Ocean stretched out beneath her. She far outpaced the sun, and like a clock, winding in reverse, dawn soon turned to night. I think I'm going to stop there for today. I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, please leave a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and share. I will see you again Monday. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing yet Monday, but I may also stream sometime this weekend. I'll have to see if I have some time, so look out for that. Anyways, have a good weekend, and I will see you again Monday. Good night. Good night. Good night.